What's up? What's up? It's
Now, what's
Cruz
going on for you?
going all right. It's Cruz and Phil here live um, on the second week of January. Lot of stuff going on in the United States.
Yeah, it was an eventful last week. More importantly, did you get your packages in yet so we can get out of here? What'd
No,
you
I
do?
haven't. I actually had to order another package because I'm having issues with my laptop. So I bought a replacement and then I have to install that. But it's coming in at the same time as the other stuff. So in that way, it's good. But otherwise, yeah, I'm still trying to nail some of those things down because yeah, it's cold. I do want to be someplace warm. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely gone a little chilly, but yeah, no, definitely getting bug to get on the road again soon. I'm good. I could stretch it out for a little while, but uh, definitely want to get back out and get going. Um, Especially like how it is once you get kind of being around, stuck in one place for a little bit, start getting a little antsy, wanting to get going, and then with all the craziness going on and everything, I'd much rather you know be aware but be a little disconnected from it at the same time.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely kind of feel that way too. And it's weird because it's I still feel like anything can happen. I mean, it's looking pretty abysmal in general terms, but at least there's there's something to look forward to as far as traveling, things like that. And
Just Yeah, it just feels like once you're back stateside for some reason that you just get you're so much more inundated with it as opposed to when you're on the road. I don't know if it's a combination of, I don't know, just the environment, being somewhere else that kind of distracts you, or what it is, or maybe it's just the people you're around, because the people you're around it's obviously they have a vested interest in everything, but being stateside, it just seems like it's like tough to get away. Sometimes we'll be talking, I'll be like, can we, like, I don't like, I want to talk about something else. Like everybody, it's like the topic of everybody's conversation, whether it's storming the Capitol, COVID, this, that. It's always something there. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they're super important, of course, but there's still other stuff going on in life. There's still actually, living your life
mm,
that's still pretty enjoyable, and you can still make it pretty enjoyable if you just get away from that other stuff. So, um, yeah, definitely feeling the ready to get going and not be so inundated with all that.
yeah, no. Did you end up going out this weekend?
No, I laid low this weekend. I saw some friends on Friday night. Um, Went out for a little sushi hibachi, which was delicious. Ate a little junk food this weekend because today started, the old cleanse of no more junk for the at all for the foreseeable future. Which the first little stretch is always the absolute worst. Not that it's not like it's out of control or anything. I'm nitpicking over here in the grand scheme of things for
Mm,
my general age bracket and such, but um, we're gonna be out doing some scuba, doing some sun, doing this and that, doing some hiking. I'd much rather be down as light as absolutely possible. Um, Especially for the hiking and the other stuff, it just makes it so much easier.
yeah, I think it's a little bit hard because it's colder outside. Um, I mean, so just for the people that are watching, Cruz contacted me was it Friday night about doing something on over the weekend, and I already had this plan in my head about not eating. I didn't eat anything on Saturday completely. Just just water and coffee was all I consumed. And then Sunday, ate a little bit. Ate a lot more today. But I dropped off the rental vehicle that I had on Friday on Saturday morning, and then I ran back to my sister's place, and that was I want to say it was like 2.5 miles or so. So I started the morning with that, and then at night, excuse me, on Sunday, I ended up doing some more exercising. So it was one of those things where trying to get back into a pretty stable rhythm because last week, definitely last week, it was like I ate restaurant food. Not that I hate restaurant food, but I definitely ate too much restaurant food over the course of the week.
It's just too easy when somebody else is making it for you and everything. It's just too easy to overeat and not necessarily eat the best stuff. Um, yeah, if you're cooking at home, it's just a lot easier. So just getting back fully on track now that I'm like, I had a friend in town for a little while, just the whole holidays stretch and everything. It's not like it went and got completely out of control, but just want to be, back to the normal routine, working out, doing something, at least, that 4 to 6 times a week or so, eating right and just
yeah,
getting back to it.
I only work out 3 times a week, so I might squeeze in like a 10-15 minute workout, but nothing too crazy. You know, um, like when I was on the road, it seems like when I'm on the road, I tend to work out a little bit more, and I think it's just because there's I tend to do more activities. You know what I mean? So I wonder if that has a lot to do with it. Like I said, on top of the fact that it's cold, so there's obviously going to be a lot of limitations as far as being able to go out if it snows or if it's like wet and rainy outside. I think it's not going to be as easy because I mean the way I work out, I typically work out outside, or I go to a park. Very rarely these days that I go to a gym. Particularly just because I like being outside because I spend
Yeah,
so much
I
time.
do. I do love being outside, and I do love like the alternative forms of like cardio. Which is real difficult to do if you're in cold weather.
Yeah,
The run outside or just the general, Saturday going out and walking around the city. If you're out, just going out exploring, just walking around the city for a couple hours, you're doing 5, 6, 7 miles,
yeah,
just casual walking around, which I mean, that burns off a ton. But you're not doing that when it's 28 degrees outside, 30 degrees outside. So that's kind of the big difference in everything. Just all that little passive stuff, that nicer weather just kind of inspires. You're just out moving around, just more active.
yeah. Does anyone that's watching right now, are you guys in that mode of ready to travel? I actually oh, here's a cool thing. I spoke to my mother and she's talking about coming out to Ecuador. Once she gets all her vacation things squared away, but you know, kind of just came as a
Nice.
surprise. Yeah, she messaged me. She's like, "Hey, when are you planning to head out to Ecuador?" I'm coming out there.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I got a couple other spots before that, end of March, April, which
Hmm.
one of the big dates coming up is I believe like February 28th. So currently on what is it? Like covidcontrols.co, which I've mentioned before.
Yep.
Covidcontrols.co, it gives you the full itinerary of all the countries, everything, which is awesome. So I'm just popping it up right now. Travel history, we'll say, coming from the United States. So I'll do that and I'll pop Colombia, which is listed as 100% allowed right now. So the big thing about them is that they're still in partial lockdown. They've still been in a partial lockdown since the 24th of March. That partial lockdown ends, technically it's set. It was extended until February 28th. No large gatherings over 50. Transport operational with restrictions, of course, meaning masks and stuff. All shops are open. The big thing is tourist attractions are closed and restaurants and bars are closed. That hurts a little bit.
Mm.
So definitely keeping an eye for travel with Colombia on that February 28th date. As it gets closer, because they're not going to, I don't think they're going to extend it, the day before. You'll know in a couple weeks before, a week or two before.
People are gonna go crazy. What's like the day
Yeah, right.
before
Like the day
going into
before,
the
they're
next
like,
day?
and no, like they'll do something before. So definitely keeping an eye on that date for the upcoming travel. Definitely anybody out there, I recommend this. If you're looking to travel, if you're just wondering what's going on about different countries, They link to tons of news articles at the local countries. You know, it's coming. This is coming from the Bogota Post, Colombia Reports, the Rio Times, all giving great information, great articles, all listed right below. You just punch it in, grab the country, you can see what's going on, seeing where you're coming from and everything, and their updated most recent restrictions, which I don't know exactly how they're pulling all this info, but compared to just having been out in different places, it's really been pretty accurate.
Well, the good thing too is just being able to see if there's you know, if we're traveling, like if there are things that we're gonna be able to do, or if there are other people that are gonna be interested in doing stuff. I mean, you know, how does this affect the smaller businesses? I mean, the small businesses that are out there. You know, like that's the part that just kind of drives me a little
I mean,
wild.
if they're restaurants and bars, I mean, they have to start opening, right?
Yeah,
Like
or
that,
do takeout or something. Um,
they have. I mean, that's a long time. And I mean, they're not. I can almost guarantee they're not really getting the best aid or anything. Like that's going to be getting pretty rough. So I'm assuming they're going to be opening up around there, but definitely paying attention to that. But before that, interesting. So, of course, we talked about Fort Lauderdale. Obviously, everybody knows like if you're looking to get out, do a little bit of traveling, you're not super worried about it, and you understand how the place is going to be operating. Meaning, if you're going to be going to Florida, before you go to Florida, understand how they are operating. They are less restrictive on masks. Bars are open. Your servers may or may not be wearing masks. That's the state of how they are running their state. So if you do want to go, just understand that. Like, of course, if you're going to Disney World, it's extremely different. Disney World has its own set of rules and regulations. They're going to be real strict on masks and everything. But the general areas around Florida, I mean, that's how they've been operating this whole time. So if you want to go down there and you're okay with that, and you're willing to take the risk, and you want to get out, get a little sun and everything, then by all means, definitely go. Which is one of the reasons we were talking about it, mainly for the sun and the sand and jumping in the ocean, getting a little bit. Also the scuba, and you know what? Also maybe at night we might sneak out and go grab an adult beverage because I don't mind doing that.
yeah,
Uh,
we were trying to recruit. We were trying to recruit some friends, and it was just like a mix. It was like a mixed bag of responses that, for the most part, had like nothing to do
no,
with
it's just
going
all
down to
over the
Florida.
place. Yeah. The other place on the list for a quick visit, which happened like the end of February, maybe stretching through March a little bit. Like I told you before, Austin.
Hmm.
Word on the ground there is that their bars and restaurants are still open. Some restrictions, but more open than not as far as you being able to go and do stuff. I love the city of Austin. I know there was some pictures from their New Year's Eve. They kind of had they had a bit of a party going on there in Austin. People were going out, letting off a little steam, having some fun. That's definitely on the books. But apparently, right now, a great hotspot heard about it from a buddy on the Reddit thread, actually, Pat, is actually the Dominican Republic right now.
Mm.
So, what's going on down in the DR is you can go in. They're not doing really too much restriction on the COVID testing or anything as far as the in and out. You don't need some 24-hour test to try and get in there. They are on curfew on stuff, on bars and restaurants, right? But the places that are not on curfew for bars and restaurants are the resorts themselves.
Mm. Kind of odd.
So what the Reddit thread is discussing and talking about is you go and you get an Airbnb over, say, in a Las Terrenas, which is a resort area. It's gorgeous. Obviously, everybody knows Punta Cana. But you check out one of those, you get an Airbnb there in the city near the water. You live in your Airbnb, you go swimming, you do everything. And then if you want to go and do something, a lot of the resorts let you go to them to go and have drinks or eat or anything, even if you're not part of the resort itself. So that was some of the things that they were talking about there. And apparently it's actually a little busy. There's actually some people down there in the DR, getting a little sun, getting a little sand, getting out of this cold, getting away from life for a minute, just trying to reset, help with their mental health and kind of relax. So that one's definitely kind of on the book. Some of the Airbnb prices there were very cheap, very very cheap. Flights weren't bad. Flights were pretty cheap. Some of the Airbnb prices for the stuff was real low. Talking like right in some of the resort.
Oh,
Like 12, 1,300 bucks for a couple bedroom. Um,
yeah, that's fantastic. Actually, I've never been to the DR, but it's definitely one of those places I'd like to go to. Um, there's a really great restaurant out here, Cecilia's, um, just right at the border of like Dartmouth and Bedford, and the amount of food that they give is absolutely ridiculous. On top of like the quality of the food too, and the people there are super nice. But one of the things that at least for adult beverages, one of the drinks that Dominican Republic has, or I guess just like their national drink, is Mamjuana. It's like a
yeah,
mixture.
I've been down. Yeah, it's the rum
All
with
those,
all the spices soaked in there. Yeah, it gets
yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I bet I went down all inclusive resort one time before.
Mm.
If I'm being honest, there's little shot unless there was like with some friends or something that were like, yeah, let's do an all inclusive. I would be like, all right, sure, I'll go with you. I would probably never do an all inclusive resort ever again in my life if I'm being honest. Um, just not really necessarily the style. Now, if I have an Airbnb right next to one and I want to go over and be able to do some activities, get some, go have some drinks or anything, yeah, definitely. Depending on what their rules and everything are at the different resorts. But as far as staying, but I did have a fun time. They are good, and they definitely served up a lot of mamajuana. A lot of the mamajuana.
I don't.
The
So
DR is gorgeous. It's
yeah,
gorgeous. The water there is beautiful. That beautiful Caribbean water. It's nice.
yeah. And what's great, it sounds like over the course of the weekend or over the course of the week, you really started hammering down as far as like locating things to do, looking at options as far as the situation with Colombia, because I haven't looked at any of that kind of stuff. I've been um,
Yeah, I
my
told you
attention has been on.
I'm getting antsy. I'm getting.
So I think as far as with Colombia, assuming that things might not um, pan out as well if Colombia continues to have a lot of restrictions, things like that. Dominican Republic definitely sounds like for me, definitely sounds like a place that I wouldn't mind spending a little bit of time. Beach, sand, nice Airbnb, and then on top of just having the option to go to a resort that's that'll let people in, things like that. I mean, I can't imagine that some of these resorts are going to not let people in, especially since there is a limited number of people that are going on vacation and things like that. So
I think they're all different. I have no idea. I've never tried to go. Yeah, I mean, if it's an all inclusive resort, I guess it might be a little tough because then how do you charge certain people? I have no idea. But if it wasn't an all inclusive resort or if they had other options, then I'm assuming there's still going to be ways to pay and everything. And I don't think they're going to turn away extra clientele, right?
I don't.
There's
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
there's
so.
probably resort guest only pools in certain areas or resort guest only chairs and stuff. But I think if you were willing to go there and spend money, I don't necessarily think they're going to turn you away.
Yeah.
Um,
Now I've never been on a all expense paid resort. I've done kind of a la carte events and things like that. Stayed at a place and then did an event that way, but never did anything like that. So I have no context of like how
yeah,
much
old
fun it is.
classic little wristband or your card or whatever. Um,
Mm.
Back and forth. Generally, I mean, usually with the all inclusive, it's like well drinks, anyways, too. So if you want some type of upcharge or anything, they're gonna sell those to you. So there is some other transactions and everything. So I'm assuming you can definitely still get in and go and visit them.
Yeah, for
But
those who are watching, Cruise has presented quite a few great options. And do any of you have any plans for going out in the near future, or maybe considering some, especially since Cruise has given some pretty good insight here about some places to go to, and I think I'm honestly really starting to peg the DR up on my list as you know kind of intermediary locations because because I go to Ecuador for a set period of time, and I do like staying at a place that's warm, and having the option to go to the beach is really just I think that's just a great blessing to be like, oh, you know what, it for the morning I'm just gonna go for a quick swim, and then come back and then start the day, whatever
Yeah,
whatever whatever the activity is, that kind
not
of
the
stuff.
worst start to the morning.
Yeah.
That's not the worst start to the morning.
Because I'm a type of person that I don't know what it is, but I like getting out of the ocean, after just swimming for a little bit or just kind of playing in the water, coming out, and it's like the skin just I don't know. I just feel a lot healthier. I feel a little bit rejuvenated. This I think that's a really good thing for people, especially if there aren't that many restrictions, especially for travel. If there's no travel restrictions with the flights, I think it sounds like it's definitely a must under the situation that we're all
Yeah, so we may have to be a little flexible. I think that Colombia is going to come around, and no matter what, like at some point this upcoming summer, or anything like Colombia is happening. Like I've been wanting to go. I've been wanting to go there for a while now. Um, but if you were to have no bars, no restaurants and stuff open, that'd be and no tourist stuff, for the extra things. That's a little rough. Because now you just and I mean I do want to go there and be able to enjoy and just live. That's a majority of what we're going to be doing while we're there. But
in.
then when you want to be able to still go and do your other stuff. I want to, you're going to be in Medellin for a long time. Like I want to be able to, like I said, on the weekend, go out, have a beer, in the local square, have a couple drinks, have some salsa dance, and be able to go out for a dinner on the weekend and stuff. Enjoy the culture and have a great time. So if that's we may have to readjust, but that date is February 28th as far as their partial restrictions supposedly supposed to be lifting. So we're gonna have to pay attention to that date when it starts getting a little closer. What's going on there, um, and then just readjust. I mean, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, right? That we've been discussing since this whole beer bug thing that's been going around is like it's really tough to plan sometimes because it's the goalpost gets moved, in so many different directions that it's very difficult to be like, all right, I'm gonna book my flight for Colombia today, for February for March 1st, and it's it's a little bit premature to do that. It's almost like you have to wait till it gets a little bit closer and closer. The news change in a week. The news change in just a couple of days. You know what I mean? That's one of the things um, where that's the difficult part for a lot of people. But the good thing is though, despite waiting for a long time for flights, they're still relatively cheap. So even if you do wait last minute, there
They're
is that
super
ability.
cheap. They're
Yeah.
giving
So
they're giving you free cancellation. You can book in advance, and if something comes up, you're gonna get a free change. You're gonna get a free cancellation. Um, you're gonna be able to adjust.
actually, I still have credit on one of the flights that I have that I will use at some point. So I think and that was just one of the great things about when I switched my flight when I was when I stayed in Ecuador for an extra 2 weeks, no, excuse me, 3 weeks. So and I was able just to use that credit to buy another flight. And even then, I was you're not really breaking the bank, so it's just so low. So,
No, my jet from before when we canceled, when everything first started and everything, based on like prices now, whether it's to Florida, Punta Cana, Ecuador, Colombia, JetBlue's got me covered for a couple places just on that travel credit from the prices before COVID. Um, so all the flights are, so it's just going to be living and everything. And then I have a feeling this next stretch, once that end of March, April stretch, and I head out, I think it's going to be a long stretch of different places. Whatever places are kind of working and open between, Ecuador, Colombia, other areas in South America. I think it's going to be a little bit of a run.
yeah, and you know what the great thing is, as long as the place has internet, relatively decent internet, it's really like it's it's not difficult to get around. Most places, regardless of being relatively remote, has internet. And that's one of the great things.
I wouldn't go back there for a couple months, but I mean, I'd go fly right directly back to Cusco and stay up in that area for a month.
Mm.
Just to actually sit and enjoy the city for a little bit. I loved that city. That was a great city up in the mountains. Beautiful.
Heck yeah.
Uh,
So anyone who's watching, do you guys have any experience with some of this stuff? Have you traveled at all since the beginning of 2020 and going into 2021? Like I said, I spoke with my mother, and just over the weekend, she's like, oh, she wants to come out to Ecuador. I was like, yeah, that'd be fantastic. Because I
people,
like to show people and experience what I've been experiencing in Ecuador. It's like the food, the area that I've been staying in. Obviously, the people out there, people are great. Um, I'm actually having a hard time right now trying to square away my whole visa thing because I have like an additional 13 days or so until I have to purchase a visa, but it's very difficult to get a hold of someone in their office in
what
Connecticut.
you're trying to square away the extended visa, right?
Yeah, it's
it's 90 days annually, and you can get an extended visa for an additional 90, right? Annually.
Yeah, and it's not like you have to do it all at once. You can do it. Um, it's done by days. So, if you've only stayed for 3 months, it's roughly about 90 days, right? That means that you still have, you can apply for the visa and then be able to stay an extra 90 days. So if you happen to leave in between those days, say you stay for 15 days and then you come back, you still have, um, you know,
So
85,
they don't.
75
Do
more days.
you request it for the whole 90? You don't have to request it for like, oh, I'm going to use 15 during this stretch or anything, right?
Yeah, it's just the total. So
Okay.
so without a visa, you have 90 days, and if you leave, like say you go to Colombia, it doesn't take away from your 90 days because you went to Colombia for
Yep.
15 days.
Gotcha. Okay, so they are accurately counting. It's not like from this date to this date. They are actually just counting blanket days in country and everything.
Yeah, but
Okay.
but I can tell you it's very difficult to get a hold of someone in the office in Connecticut. And I actually just emailed them today and actually said that I was a little frustrated. I was like, it's really difficult to get a hold of you guys. And like I already applied, and all I'm looking for is to pay for the visa, which I have to do in person because their website is they ask these strange questions like lineage questions, like, oh, what is your grandparent's
Yeah.
name?
You talked about this. The
Yeah,
website's crazy. You don't even actually have to fill out any of these.
yeah.
It's not
So
even relevant.
yeah, and what it is because of a lot of the different people coming from different countries. Uh, some of them could be refugees and things like that. The process of their form on their website doesn't doesn't allow you to proceed until all of these questions are filled out. And that was like my first big issue. It was actually very stressful. But otherwise, regardless of all that, everyone has 90 days, without a visa. So it's not something that you have to worry about. But if someone's planning to go out there for longer, which I highly recommend to do that because it's a great place. The food is awesome, and it's not too costly, and the people are super nice. Um, I'd highly recommend it. But with that being said, but when you get to that, if someone does get to that point where they want to stay longer, just be prepared to have a very difficult time with getting in contact with someone um,
Yeah.
in their office. So Uh, and Sophia has been really helpful too because I'm like, oh, I still have 13 days, right? Well, if I go back, where do I go? And apparently, if I need to visit a consulate out there, I would have to go to a town um, 3 or 4 hours away from the main city where the airport is, which is Guayaquil. So we were trying to figure out some of the logistics should should that come about, but as it
So the
looks right,
consulate's not even in Guayaquil. It's in some other smaller town.
No, it is in Guayaquil, but apparently, as from what she told me, is that it's closed because of the whole beer bug thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just limited to like certain areas. So I don't know what it's even like in the mountains, which is 8-9 hour drive. Um, whereas in Guayaquil, I guess the area that you'd have to go is in Cuenca, which is like I said 3 or 4 hours from Guayaquil, and that's kind of like in the mountainous region. But there's a lot of expats out there too, which is probably the reason why. Um, I'm assuming, like, oh, if you were to talk about like a lot of Americans, if a lot of Americans were moving to Ecuador, most of them live in Cuenca.
Okay, that makes sense then.
So that's
Yeah,
that's
this. I mean, so I mean, that's a little bit of a process and everything, and like we talked about everything. But I mean, there's still options out there, and that's just these are just places that have popped up. I haven't even done any like extensive deep dive on other places. I mean, if you want to get really crazy, like not even really crazy, like Turkey's open. If you want to go to Turkey, you can go to Turkey.
Turkey is on my list. Turkey's on my list.
Istanbul, there's a bunch of stuff. Istanbul is wide open as far as being able to go, visit, activities, everything. COVID tests, I think 72 hours or something to get in from the United States. But they are functional. They are up and they are functional. It looks like Chile is actually opening back up too. I love this website. It's covidcontrols.co. It's a great site. Let's see. So Chile, it's PCR test required. Quarantine for 10 days is required for all countries. Let's see. Oh, new update. On December 29th, the Chilean government announced that starting on the 31st, all travelers, including Chileans, foreign residents, accredited diplomats, and foreign tourists must complete an obligatory 10-day quarantine. So that was just instituted. They will be able to leave quarantine with a negative PCR result based on a test taken on or after the 7th day in quarantine. Okay. While they await the results, starting Thursday, January 7th at 5 a.m., all Chileans must have a proof of a negative result from a PCR test taken within 72 hours of boarding their final flight to Chile. Okay, so you need a 72-hour start. January 7th, they just instituted, so you need a 72-hour before you fly in.
Which is
Online
kind of
form, Ministry of Health.
which is kind of like
Uh,
the normal. It's the
it's pretty
magic
standard
numbers.
everywhere.
Yeah, it's like the magic number is like 3-day PCR test. So if worse comes to worse, actually, I'll bring this up again. But Ecuador, you have 10 days. You have 10 days to take a PCR test. So um, a little bit more lax with that. Oh, and I'll touch base on this a little bit as you're looking through stuff here. One of the things that you have to consider when you do go into Ecuador, they do screen. They have doctors that are uh, right at the port area, right at the exit area, and from the airplane. And what they do is they check your PCR form. Now it makes sense. I would recommend that if you decide to enter Ecuador, um, you want to have a copy of your PCR test, like a hard copy. So make sure that you print it out. Otherwise, they're gonna make you print it out. It's a little it can be a little frustrating that process because they go through every person that goes in, that arrives, and that can be kind of long. So kind of bear that in mind. But it's if everything's okay, should it should be just smooth sailing all the way through. Just kind of keep that in mind. You enter,
So
they screen everybody, and
it's
then
pretty standard, right? Yeah, it's the same thing. Croatia, they check your stuff when you come in, record it, move along. It looks like they got a little bit of a curfew, 10 p.m. But they're interesting is that their partial lockdown is also until March 1st. So Colombia was um, February 28th. They go on March 1st. Their restaurants and bars are open with restrictions. Tourist attractions are closed. All shops are open. General other restrictions on different things. But looks like a lot of these places currently have targeted that end of March, February time. I don't know if that's when tourist season starts to kick up or if that's one of their time frames where they're just like that. We need to start opening things back up. But it's looking like some of these places are right around that February, March time. So it'll be a very interesting month of February to see if those dates start changing, if they're on track, what's going on. But they did say that Chile they got their doses of some vaccines. They did start vaccinating a couple weeks ago. So hopefully they're on target for opening up too.
Well, that's
that southern tip. I want to get down there. I was doing some research on there. The Straits of Magellan.
the Patagonia.
The Patagonia stretch, Straits of Magellan, and then that little island that's there that Magellan's son actually ended up. They actually noticed. So I was just reading the history on it. The reason that they actually noticed the island and noticed that there were inhabitants there is because they saw these huge fires burning as they were sailing through. So they went and made contact. And the reason they had these big, huge bonfires burning was for warmth, to stave off some of the cold. So they had these huge bonfires burning because you're down there at the Straits of Magellan and that island down there. That's as close to Antarctica as you can get. It gets very chilly there during the wintertime. It's not warm down there.
Because it's Chile.
Stupid. Which is good and bad because we always talk about being warm and wanting to be warm, right? Except for the fact that I actually want to go down there during the winter months, as terrible as that sounds.
No, I could see that because
I want the southern aurora borealis. Would you have to go down there during the winter?
I mean, Chile is very long. They have a pretty diverse weather from the northern part to the southern part.
You can be up in Santiago and it's going to be warm a majority of the year and never really get that cold. And then you get all the way down south and woof, that gets chilly. It's like it's probably their farthest point up is, let's see, that's the equator. They're up right there. That farthest point up in Chile. We're talking about the close to the difference of going from like being a resident of Canada down to Key West, Florida. Maybe slightly farther as far as the difference between the climates at their northernmost point to their southernmost point.
Yeah, it's quite a distance. There's I know somebody that did a bike ride down to Patagonia, not from like North America, but parts of Chile, and then heading down, and it gets pretty remote as you start going, farther south. There's especially if you're crossing some of the major rivers or anything like that. They might have like one major hydro plant, but then for the most part, there's a lot of villages. Even listening to some of the Spanish there, it's very different from
It's a lot more mixed of the Spanish with the original tribal. It's not the most hospitable area. There's some remote areas, and there's some stuff that's really few and far in between. It's a really interesting topographical area. I mean, if you just look at it, it's just so many individual little islands. I mean, the land like isn't even connected. Very interesting area. Definitely a spot that I would absolutely love to see, but the list is long. So we're just gonna have to stay flexible, play it by ear as far as what's opening up. But the month of February is going to be really interesting to see how things start changing. Right? I think we can all agree on that. I think everybody's not. I don't know if fed up is the right word. I think people are very anxious to be able to get out and about. They're starting to really feel cooped up. People are really wanting to be able to head off and enjoy activities and such. So we'll start seeing how that time frame pans out come February. Those first couple of weeks, I think we're going to get our rooms going to go, and then we'll adjust and just plan from there, right?
Yeah, again, this we were thinking. I think a lot of people were hoping that the beginning of 2021 was just going to be a completely different story, and then a new chapter. But we're not getting past that chapter until January is over. That's for
No.
sure. Or for all we know, things could just suddenly flip. So it's one of those things. As you said, February, it looks like it's going to be a good gauge of what's to come in the future, and then is there going to be more restrictions, or are things going to start to lax up a little bit? But it's right now it's still very difficult to tell. But keeping our finger on the pulse as far as what's going to happen, and at least sort of plan. That's what we got to do. Sort of plan for what's up and coming, and then
I mean, the good thing is you can still research places, you can
yeah,
research and you can prep the plans about, what kind of areas are you thinking to stay in? What are some of the other off the beaten path things that you don't always hear people talking about in different places? Like Colombia, you hear people always, talk about Medellin, you hear people talk about Cartagena as far as like big, just initial tourist destinations. But how many people do you hear talking about that island Providencia that I mentioned to you? Not that many. So like, there's a good chance to do that deep diving and planning, figuring out what neighborhoods even that you want to stay in, right?
mm,
Medellin's a city of 2 million people.
yeah, it's a big city.
You don't just go randomly booking an Airbnb anywhere there.
Well, you
Like
could.
you could, absolutely. You absolutely could. And you probably would be fine overall. But there just may be more optimal areas to stay in than the one that you picked. So all that research and all that time and stuff, I mean, it's still good. It's going to get used.
So one of the things too about Chile is that there's a large plateau. I want to say it's uh, near Santiago, and one of the interesting aspects about it is that it's a large plateau that's above, obviously above sea level. But what's interesting is that there's actually fossilized sea creatures on that plateau on the very top. So it's kind
Oh,
of
that's awesome.
right. Wouldn't it be cool just to like check out some of these places, just like, oh wow, there's you know
That's
the
wicked cool.
like the possibility of the ocean being much higher than it used to be, and then somehow there's fossilized creatures at this very large elevation. um and there's a lot of empty space in Chile, like
Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm not a master of topography for South America, but the Andes run extremely close to the coast there with Chile, do they not?
I believe
Making
I believe so. I'm not a master
a,
of topography either, so
a large portion of their just overall terrain extremely difficult. Like
yeah,
heading north to south in Chile is not some casual stroll highway like
no,
jumping on Route 66 and driving across the United States.
yeah, no,
It's some
go ahead.
it's some rugged terrain with, I believe, the mountains run real close to the coast on that portion.
Yeah, it goes like I think one of the attractions for me as a destination spot is that it's very just like in Peru, just like in uh in Ecuador, right? Like if you just look at Google Earth, I mean, there's stretch of it where it's just all kind of brownish and gray, and then the other side is is green. So again, it's one of those. It'd be a very interesting trip for sure, just to check out. Um, and the food, oh my gosh, have you been to a Chilean restaurant?
No, I've done the Bolivian, Peruvian, of course, having been in Peru, and then there's a great one here in Providence. Los Andes, surprising, ha 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 ha, is the name of the restaurant. It's Los Andes in Providence.
Did you?
The
Oh, you
place
went.
is awesome.
You went.
Yeah, have you been to Los Andes in Providence?
No, no. I met someone that told me about who lives in
Yeah, I've been a
Providence.
couple times. They're awesome. They're amazing. Really, really good. They're right near where we used to live. They're on Chalkstone.
Oh, Oh, so quick background, everybody. Cruz and I used to live together back in the day in Providence. So we've had
That was a couple of years ago at this point.
yeah, just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no. If nobody's been there, Los Andes, Chalkstone Ave in Providence, amazing Peruvian Bolivian food. Tough to get a reservation. At least previously, I haven't been there in a while. Tough to get in there, but oh, top notch food, unbelievable.
Maybe that's someplace that we should go to. Do do some food hopping in the
Yeah,
area.
we absolutely should. Yeah, maybe this. Honestly, actually, what's this weekend? Maybe if you're actually, we can plan right now. Maybe this weekend. I actually was calling you this past weekend because for doing something. And you said you're doing the cleanse. I was like, all right, we'll lay off this week because he's probably taking it a little easy. My hip and stuff hasn't been amazing, but it's been feeling better. And I wanted to see if you wanted to get out for a little bit of a colder weather hike, couple miles, just to give the old leg and knee and stuff a little bit of a workout test.
Sure. Shake that rust off. Shake that rust
Yeah,
off
yeah,
that we've
yeah.
had.
Just to give it a little bit of a go, stretch out beforehand, see how it handles the up and downs. Running on the flat has been fine, hasn't been acting up really, just the normal.
Yeah.
And it's those inclines and then downs that get stuff going. So maybe
Yeah.
this weekend we can do a little bit of that and then try and catch a dinner there at Los Andes. Get a little food after.
Where are you thinking about hiking?
Um,
Like Blue Hills
Probably
or
somewhere
something?
else. What's that?
Blue Hills?
We can go up. We can go up to Blue Hills. I mean, I got no plans. I can go down, scoop you up early, grab a coffee, drive up there, go do that hike. Um, Come back down, do a little stuff. Yeah, definitely.
All right, that sounds like a plan. Look at that. We're announcing what we're doing this weekend, guys. So if you want to join us on
Oh yeah.
meet us.
Anybody, if you feel a little cooped up, if you want some Peruvian Bolivian food, you want to go on a hike for a little while, probably at a reasonable pace, but it'll be a good little hike. And then after a hike like that, even if you go hiking for like 3-4 hours with some decent elevation, like don't feel bad about having a decent dinner. Like you burnt off a ton of calories. That hiking with a pack on burns so much.
A pack and the cold. Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
guarantee just doing some hiking, you'll probably end up sweating anyway.
Oh,
Like
you'll absolutely be. That's
like
actually the biggest issue with hiking in the cold is the fact that you're cold to start and then you end up sweating through everything.
yeah. So if anyone decides that they're going to join us, if we do this, so well later in the week we'll confirm it. But I don't have any set plans for this weekend, so that sounds like a nice fun activity. Kind of mix it up a little bit, and then have some food in some of these areas. And we might need a reservation, right? For some of these restaurants.
Yeah, I'll try and square that away. If once we confirm, I'll call them up, see what they got going on and everything.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. Just in Blue Hills, it's a little deceiving because like geographically, it's not very large, like physically, but there's a lot of paths in in the Blue
Yeah,
Hills.
probably. So it's easy to get yourself turned around when you're coming back out. When there's too many paths like that, it actually gets way more confusing than other hikes.
I got lost. I got lost one time. The sense of direction just went bananas. So
um, yeah, then I mean we'll have to get an early start and plan ahead because I mean when you're doing something like that, I mean I'll have my regular gear with me. It wouldn't be any type of overly issue if you were to get stuck out there. I'm not super worried about that, honestly.
yeah,
But
yeah,
it's
we could hop the fence and start waving
it's
the traffic signal.
yeah, it's just easy if you get turned around, the sun goes down early. If you're not trying to make your way back out, all of a sudden, like you turn around and now it's getting dark. And once it gets dark, stuff gets a lot more difficult. Then you got the headlamp on and starts to be a real pain.
No, I would say 3 hours, unless 3 hours max. If we were going super aggressive, like doing all the paths, I mean, it could definitely fill up the whole day. But I don't see it taking any longer than 3 hours. 3 hours is
Yeah,
being kind of you know being conservative about it. So
nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome. Yeah, just to follow up, if anybody, yeah, I mean, I've never really looked at it, but I am looking at the topography here now on of Chile. Yeah, it looks like that mountain range is running down. That's crazy. Getting from north to south there, like you're not driving that. Like I'm not taking a bus. If we end up in Chile, like we're flying down south. I'm
Oh,
not
oh no, there's
take us 4 days.
oh, you know, after doing the drive, the overnight drive from Loja back to Guayaquil. Oh,
This
I already declared. I was like, I'm not doing a drive.
this zigzagging road in between the as you head south in between the mountains, bridge after bridge, going across all these disconnected land masses forever. Holy cow.
And the estimation of getting to a place, uh, you know, so say Google Maps says like it takes 10 hours. More than likely, it's you probably add another 10 hours to that. You know, like the switchbacks and curves and how fast it goes up and down and whatever else. It's it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. All right. So anyone who's considering doing some long drives over uh, varied elevation for mountainous areas. It's not like the mountains like in Denver, right? The Rocky Mountains where there's it's kind of large sweeps of elevation. In the Andes, or at least the parts of Ecuador that I've been through, it's like the whole ride is nothing but switchback. Even especially like when I did Quito to Santa Elena, it was absolutely brutal. And that was an 8 or 9 hour bus ride that I did um, from Quito and then returning to Quito. Ooh, it was yeah. It's one of those. I mean, you do save a little bit of money, but honestly, as far as comfort goes, there I tend to think that I'm pretty gritty when it comes to those types of things. But how sick I felt afterwards, not even worth it. Not even worth it. Like I said, I tend to think that I'm a pretty gritty guy when I travel and stuff like that. But I think there's probably one of the things that does bother me is the motion sickness inside of the vehicle. So especially a bus.
It's time too. So if you're ever traveling some of those other areas, Peru, Ecuador, Chile, and everything, I mean, if you're going for that backpacker experience, sure, jump on the bus, go for the ride, have a great time. But honestly, bang for your buck, dollar wise, most you know interstate flights are so cheap. It's just not. It's not worth the bus ride. You're not saving yourself enough to make it worth it.
All right, let me put this in perspective. Lima to Cusco. Think about how that bus ride would have been.
It's like I looked at the bus ride. Lima to Cusco, you have to go straight down the coast and then it cuts up because there's no good road that goes southeast over. So if you're looking at it, you got Lima here near the coast, and then Cusco's up here. Coast is coming down here. You got to go all the way down the coast, and then you cut back up into Cusco. It's like a day and a half, 2 days to go by the bus there.
Yeah, yeah. And so I did a portion of it because I went up north, right, to that desert area, and it's a long stretch. Like it's fairly straight away, but as you reach the areas where they start to get, there's quite a bit of elevation. That's when it's like, you start going back and forth, and it's like I said, it's one of those things where if you get motion sick real quick, it's definitely not going to be it's definitely not going to be a fun ride. And it's one of those if recommendations to do it overnight, right? Take a sleeping pill or something and just knock yourself out so you don't feel any of this stuff because I'm telling you, it's absolutely brutal. Um, it's something that I would wish on my worst
Huh.
enemy. You know what I
So,
mean?
so you got that. Like I remember we look at the bus ride because it goes down, and it was about a day and a half. There was a stop or two. They let you stop and see some of the cities, so that was kind of all right with it. Or, granted, we got hit with a little bit of a baggage fee because on one of them. But the flight round trip back and forth between Lima and Cusco, and this was like, I think we bought it like 2 days before. And the flight's an hour, was like 50 or 60 bucks.
Yeah, like it's not that bad at all. You know, it's definitely worth taking a flight, um, you know, within the country, just because you, you get more time to do stuff. That's the good, you know, one of the most important things. You want to be able to, or just even relax. You know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a high activity high activity thing. It just needs to be, you know, just getting that kind of self assurance that you arrived at the place safely, and then you're kind of just free to do whatever you want. Whereas, you know, if you take a bus, like I said, it's like you're committed to that amount of time. It's like, you know, like I said, 8 hours, 10 hours, 24 hours. It's that's a lot of time.
I mean, some of those rides, don't get me wrong, it's an experience, but I'll jump on the quick flights.
Yeah. Well, we talked
That
about that. We talked about that when we were first planning Peru, right? We were like, oh, you know, we should take a bus, and it's like, ooh, do we really want to use up a day or two just for traveling? That's how we ended up
yeah.
with doing the plane.
That was when we were on a shorter time, so that was a definite no. It was like I was there for like 16 or 17 days. Like I couldn't waste a day and a half on that. That travel stretch. Of course, these longer stretches and everything, yeah, you can bake in a little bit of travel time because it's pretty extended without, too much of a time restriction, except for whatever, like maybe that visitor visa is going to be good for in the country before they kick you out.
Mm.
Um,
Well,
it's just one of those comforts. I'm willing to backpack it. I'm willing to sleep in hammocks. In fact, some of the adventures sounds amazing, sleeping in some hammocks and stuff. But if I'm being a little snobby, like I don't need to get on a bus every single time to save like a couple dollars.
you know what it is too? It's like, at least this is for me. For me, when I go on a bus, I can't like read a book or anything because I get motion sickness.
I
So
can't read a book. I can't read a book in the car or bus anymore. No,
yeah,
I'll
like
be sick.
yeah, it's absolutely brutal. So for me, it's like it's almost lost time. Like, yeah, you get a little bit of time to, you know, view the scenery, but sometimes the stretches are so large that, like, oh, if you happen to sleep for 15 minutes and then you wake up and then you look outside, it's like, oh, okay, it's the same, you know, it's the same mountains. And you can appreciate the scenery, but
Sure.
but honestly, like, as far as that goes, I'm okay with viewing the scenery from airplane window.
Some of them are actually awesome. The flight up and over the Andes is actually, from looking down on it from the plane, the flight up and over the Andes is actually amazing. The
Yeah,
scenery and the flight that is gorgeous to look down on.
yeah. Well, when you and I were flying from Lima to Cusco, it's just we didn't stop looking out the window. It was
No,
just, you know, between the cloud formations and then all the mountains, all the little towns and villages, and you could see the small roads. It was just a sight to see. Um, and even the clouds, because like when we left Lima, right? It was just a large pillow of clouds. It was just a huge blanket that ran across
yeah,
the.
Lima gets that haze over it.
Oh
It
my
just
god,
gets
for a
that
long
cloud.
time, for a
It
long
just
time.
gets that cloudy haze, just the way it is, the mountain and the ocean there. It's a little gloomy.
Yeah,
It just is.
and I'll say that from experience because I stayed out there for 3 months. It was cloudy like 95% of the time. It was like, because it was very, not only was it cloudy, but it was also humid, so it felt kind of cold. Like, you go outside or even be inside, and you'd just be like, wow, it almost feels like winter, but it's not that it's cold. It might be, you know, 65 degrees, which is actually temperate weather, 65 degrees Fahrenheit, but because the humidity is so high, you know, you're out, you know, you have to wear a coat because it's cold,
Mm.
because it feels cold. So
Yeah, just something about where it sits with the mountains and everything coming off the ocean. It creates a unique cloud cover there.
Yeah, this December is actually when it switches over and it gets extremely hot. So the weather starts to mirror uh, similar weather to like Santa Elena, where it's in Ecuador, where it's just it's very very hot. A lot of people are out and things like that. It's a beautiful city, but if you're planning to go out to Peru in the August time frame, August, September, October, November, be prepared that it's very cloudy for most of the time. I don't was it no, there was no sunshine when you were.
It wasn't sunny one day that we were in Lima. Not one day that I was there.
Yeah.
Wasn't sunny one single day. Lima was honestly Lima itself. Couple days there, go around, enjoy it, check it out. If I was going to do a long-term stay,
Cusco.
from my opinion, I would be in Cusco.
Cusco is cool.
Cusco, it's got that amazing Spanish architecture, nice old town, old city area, great bohemian district with like the zigzagging streets, a lot of cafes, a lot of good solid little restaurants, super cheap. No ocean, of course. It's in the mountains, sitting around like 8,000 altitude. Amazing weather. Just crisp, clear, beautiful altitude mountain weather. Go there for a month, relax, work, have some coffees in the morning. It's a good city.
So with that being said, I want to thank you all for joining us this episode. Like I said, we're keeping our hand on that dial to make sure our travel is going to be safe, and we welcome anyone to meet us at any of these places that we go to. And because this is live, this is something that we want to be able to share with people. Things that we like doing. One of them is traveling and having some adventures and stuff like that. And hopefully, this helps you guys with planning for your next adventure, or you guys are looking to join us when we go out. So, Cruz, you have anything else to add before we close up shop?
No, it's a good week. I'm excited to do a little hiking. I got to figure out which one of these adventures and areas is going to square away that scuba. That's like the only checkbox I need to set up, and then definitely just antsy to get back on the